Good morning, everyone. This is Mike O'Malley here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for November 2nd, 2022, around 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We have a lot to talk about this morning, including Hurricane Lisa that is now formed in the Caribbean, which is set to make landfall in Belize later today, and a look at a new potential system that could be forming in the Caribbean or southwestern Atlantic. So let's go and jump straight into everything. Taking a wide look across the tropical Atlantic this morning, we have several systems out there to start off November. First of all, Tropical Storm Martin, located in the North Atlantic, a potential disturbance that could develop either in the Caribbean or southwestern Atlantic over the next couple of days, 20% chance as of now. And Hurricane Lisa now approaching landfall in Belize, set to cross over into Central America and then cross into the Gulf of Mexico over the next couple of days. But this is going to be something to monitor, especially today into tomorrow for Central America. Looking at Tropical Storm Martin this morning, we noticed that the storm structure has become a lot better organized today. And actually, we had an eye trying to clear out on the infrared satellite earlier this morning. That has now become partially obscured, but however, this is still definitely expected to become a hurricane later today. This is going to continue moving northeast and not expected to impact land at all, so that is certainly some good news there. And in the Caribbean, we have Tropical Storm Lisa this morning, which still looks a little bit ragged. We don't have a ominous hurricane symbol kind of showing up in the infrared satellite. And this is most likely due to mid-level dry air that has been ingested into the storm's inner core, causing a temporary weakening of the convective pattern. However, recon data still suggests that this is a hurricane 75 mile per hour and could intensify slightly right before landfall sometime later this afternoon. If we look here at the track forecast for Hurricane Lisa, we notice this is expected to make landfall sometime later today across Belize and Central America. This will move inland and weaken. However, it's not going to go over the high-ish terrain of Central America, and so this is actually expected to survive, cross over into the Gulf of Mexico and Bay of Campeche. Well, it will eventually meet its demise as it kind of gets trapped there and weakens. We can kind of see how this evolves on the GFS forecast evolution. We see this making landfall later today, crossing over Central America, and then some of the remnant energy may in fact make its way back out into the Gulf of Mexico. In fact, the GFS actually doesn't show this, but it is kind of explicitly forecast on most of the major forecast guidance that this will make its way into the Gulf. Well, it will eventually become trapped there, not really allowed to do much besides weaken. One of the main reasons why this system won't do much in the Gulf of Mexico is the presence of shear that will be building in across the region. We can see here on the GFS 300 millibar wind, all of those little barbs there, these are suggesting that the shear amounts will be over 20 knots. And so that's not going to really be allowing for much in the way of intensification. We see all of the moisture and associated energy get strung out. So it's not really expected to do much once crossing into the Gulf. So with much of the forecast done with Hurricane Lisa, we turn our attention to a new system that could be developing here in the southwestern Atlantic, according to the GFS and National Hurricane Center. We can see on the vorticity here shown by the GFS, this is going to be a very messy evolution with several different competing areas of energy in the atmosphere. And so this is going to make it a very tricky forecast setup. We noticed that we could have some type of almost hybrid system off of the southeastern US coastline within about the next 5 to 7 days. And so this definitely could cause some issues, especially for coastal regions, if this is a broader, sloppier system, and it could have far-reaching impacts. It doesn't have to be tropical in nature. And one of the main reasons why this could actually be a more substantial issue, even if this is not a tropical cyclone, we're looking at the 10-meter winds off the GFS here. And we notice that eventually, as the system gets kicked off into the southwest Atlantic, the wind really begins to be elevated across portions of the southeastern coast and even the northeastern and mid-Atlantic coast. We have winds that are over 40 knots across the maritime area, and this actually suggests that we could be dealing with a coastal flooding event, potential coastal flooding, significant beach erosion, storm surge. So this is well beyond the, aspects. This is typical hurricane stuff, but doesn't have to be one to cause impacts. Now, turning our attention to United States weather today, we had noticed that it's not really active across the U.S. However, we have a storm system up in the northwestern United States today that is going to be diving southward over the next couple of days, bringing with it the threat for substantial severe weather across portions of the Midwest. Kind of the traditional tornado alley, if you will, could be under the gun for some pretty substantial severe weather. Speaking of that severe weather threat, here we go. This is the day 2 outlook. Potential for severe weather across portions of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, tornadoes, large hail damaging winds, the main threat there. Slight risk for that day. Then moving on to Thursday, we have a slight risk across portions of Texas and Oklahoma, damaging winds and tornadoes being the primary threat there. And then on day 4, we noticed that that risk is no longer there. So that's good news. So with that being said, I do hope you have a great rest of your afternoon and evening. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley, and I'll be talking to you guys again some more tomorrow.